Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in on a very important topic that when it comes to healing and sort of understanding narcissists or psychopaths and what are sort of one of the main traits that can be very damaging. I would say one of the number one traits of a narcissist or a psychopath that can be most damaging is really, that can be oftentimes their demandingness and their ability to sort of gaslight and brainwash and sort of distort perception, or for what a lot of people becomes a distorted reality, just sort of a fantasy, sort of a basking in their demands, basking in their I am. And it can become very damaging because it requires a lot of energy, a lot of focus, a lot of sacrifice on the part of those people who are involved, particularly the people who are their supply, i.e. the people who they get their ego boost from, they get their ego stroke from, they get their dinner from, they get their back scratch from, they get their sounding board from. Oftentimes things can become very out of balance and people can feel unheard, unrepresented, and disrespected because of their demandingness. So when we talk about a narcissist, we're talking about someone with a pathological sense of self-importance, meaning despite, information or evidence to the contrary, they are not getting a clue. They feel above and beyond the circumstances, the law, the situation, the restrictions, or the limitations. And to them, not only is the world their oyster, the world their playground, they, sort of own the road, if you will. So they will feel that they are above and beyond what other people, have to subject or adhere to. You guys are, probably familiar with this, and this can be very damaging. So it's important to understand one of the traits and the red flags is that sort of demandingness. In other words, go with my viewpoint. Go with what I think is funny. Go with what I think is the right way to live. Go with what I think is the right profession for you, even though it doesn't suit your talents or who you are. Dress like this, even though it doesn't fit you. Live here, even though it's, not comfortable or you don't feel at home. You don't feel right. You feel uncomfortable. And this demandingness can require a lot of sacrifice for someone who, not only in time, physical energy, but also in sort of hurt feelings, feeling ignored, feeling minimized, feeling, treated like that, like you're just trying to, they treat you like they're trying to brush you off, and then they want you to fan them with a plume feather and, give them a manicure and massage their feet. It can become very unequal, very uncomfortable. The demands can step up, the demands can relax, but really that can be one of the most damaging because it causes people to lose their I am for, especially if the demandingness is an extended period of time. Meaning, you must always pay attention to me. You must always listen to me. You must jump when I say jump. You must fly when I say fly. You're in that just sort of the insinuation that you might not be loved if you don't do this. You might not be listened to if you don't do this. You might not be hugged if you don't do this. You might not be invited to the party if you don't do this. You might not have a family if you don't do this. You might not have a marriage if you don't do this. You might have nobody if you don't, So there's this sort of all sweeping, I would think insinuation, where insinuating is also the tone. It's insinuating that, I'm just going to do this regardless of, what anybody else says or does, just inappropriate. You know, you know, and it ranges a lot from the narcissist to the psychopath. So, you know, a demand, you know, something that is demanding on others can take many shapes and forms, whether it's needing their time, you know, do this, clean that, make this, fix this, you know, just basically barking out orders with regards of any other constraints, with regards to whatever else needs to be done, without regards to your needs, without regards to your need to eat or sleep or have peace and quiet or focus in on something else that you need to do to take care of yourself, your schoolwork, your job, your health. You know, that can be, you know, very, very difficult for a lot of people who have had to make a lot of sacrifices for their demands and have fallen for the dissociation, who have fallen for, you know, that they are, you know, not good enough, the sort of, you know, catering to their superiority complex, because maybe they're taller, because maybe they have a bigger car, because they have bigger feet, because they have a better talent, whatever it is, the narcissist thinks so is so great about themselves, you know, that basically puts them above other people. This can be very demanding, very taxing on others, especially when it involves a sacrifice of time, your I am, your happiness, your needs, your need to focus on a specific area. That can be very distracting, taking your life out of order, causing a thought disorder, causing a feeling disorder, and an emotional disorder as well. Next thing you know, you look like the bad guy. You look like the one who has a mental problem, a mental breakdown. You've got an emotional disorder. You're the one who is depressed. You know, all of a sudden you're the one who needs the therapy. You're the one who's got the mental issues. Well, it's kind of like they're not taking into, you know, so once again, and then the sacrifice can be once again on them, which is known as a scapegoat, you know, where basically all the blame and is put on, you know, the sacrificial lamb, the scapegoat, you know, where, and then that person is going to basically cleanse them of all their sins, of their insecurity, basically by catering to their demands, and being a supporter, being supply, and being enablers oftentimes to these conditions. The narcissist, and the psychopath both have that pathological sense of self-importance and a lack of empathy. And with the psychopath, it's even more severe in going into very unfeeling and lack of conscience, lack of morality, lack of emotional sort of, experience. And they use this then against others to, outwit or outsmart or prey upon others and exploit their weakness, exploit their humanity, namely humanity. So when we talk about humanity, it's like coming together. It's like having a sense of moral compass, right or wrong. That is a conscience. So the demandingness can oftentimes feel like it's removing your value of yourself and your time, your energy, and oftentimes it can be very disproportionate to the circumstances at hand. So in other words, they want you to jump when you say jump, even though you're working on something very important, and it can cause you hurt or harm. You have to miss your job. You have to miss your school. You have to miss your food. You have to miss your sleep. You have to miss your medication. You have to miss, your education or your religion or something that is important to you. You have to become distracted and you cannot attend to what you need. This is not a good way to live. This is, being used and then abused by a narcissist or a psychopath. And It's different from like just physical abuse. It's emotional. It is psychological. It is spiritual. Um, it involves many layers, and it can cause a lot of just sort of this sort of depletion within, which makes it, again, even more difficult to stand up and think clearly because people can be so distraught. They can be so just exhausted that they just end up complying with the demands because they have lost their resilience. They've lost their buoyancy and their ability to fight back. And the demandingness can take your thought process out of order. It can take your I am out of order. It can make you and then if you then reinforce that negative I am experience, then you're going to carry that with you into the hour, into the next several hours. When it occurs, when that occurs, that demandingness, and you sort of give in, that knee-jerk reaction, the catering to, the coddling, which then becomes enabling and enabling, which means just reinforcing their narcissism or their psychopathy and just allowing it to flourish, allowing it to continue, without being kept in check, especially when it comes to a sense of right or wrong. And the demands can come in many ways. In other words, the demands might be, the narcissist, being inappropriate, and it might be in inappropriate or excessive need for attention, meaning you have to do a dance to get their attention. You have to jump somersaults, or you have to feel like you always have to impress. It can be very demanding, and it can really cause you to be ground down and to not feel that you have any self-worth, or that you can regain a sense of perspective, of value, meaning the ability to say no. I'm not going to do that. To put your foot down and not to be worried about the consequences, not worried about their threats, not worried about any high-risk behavior or impulsive behavior that the psychopath might be then exhibiting because you decide to finally end it all. You're not going to feed the psychological vampire. Well, and then it might be that they go away, and you don't want them to go away, but maybe that's really what you need, but you've had a difficulty breaking it off with them. So it might almost serve as like an opportunity for you to help you to get some space, saying no. Excuse me, I have a nose itch. It always seems to happen. And hope all of you are well and healthy, by the way. And yes, we're just getting back on track here. It has been a very, very busy time. Anyway, and so be careful of the demands that the narcissist or the psychopath can make on you, especially being able to understand the toll that it takes. Understand for you personally what the demands look like, what they feel like, what they sound like, what is excessive, what is, and when do you have to stop coddling and catering to them. Do this for them now. Oh, they're down. Usually there is a sob story. Usually, people then find the demand, but the problem is that it's not balanced. Are they there for you in the same way that you are there for them? You can ask yourself that. Are you there in the same way that you are for them? If it's not equal, then you have to understand that then there's going to be a huge sacrifice that you might experience, and to a certain point you go, no more. You have to be able to understand what a boundary is, what it feels like, what a standard is, and what it feels like, and what it is to say lovingly no. And lovingly for them, but also importantly, lovingly for yourself. Saying no, not going to do that. That is excessive. That is too much. that is inappropriate. The narcissist and the psychopath, I mean, they are infamous for doing crazy things to get attention. Not positive attention, but negative attention, that make other people uncomfortable. And that everybody is sort of in the, paralysis mode, or they're afraid to say no, or they're afraid to stop that just sort of supply train, flying monkey train with them, because they don't want to be on the wrong side of disappointing or receiving the wrath of them. So if that is your issue, then you should be going no contact. Why would you want to live with a constant fear that there's a dark cloud that's going to come, over you, at any time, because this person is sort of alluding to, that there's going to be this wrath. It's sort of this part of their demand, part of, how they operate, part of business as usual for them. And, it can be very damaging, because you are sacrificing not only your happiness, not only your joy, not only your peace of mind, not only your self-respect, but the opportunity to have and experience healthy relationships that you are okay with and that don't have to be a big demand on you. You might have found that in the relationship for it previously, that you had to always cater to the demands. You had to always give in. You always had to say yes. I mean, you might have become a yes person, a people pleaser in the midst of this. You might have become that. It's okay. That was then, this is now. This can be a new leg of the journey. This can be a new vista of your outlook. You're not always going to have the same outlook. You're not always going to have the same tree in the same window. Things are going to grow and change, including yourself. And usually personal growth is what's going to bring some serenity, peace of mind, and keeping things in check and in balance for you. Particularly not over obligating yourself and saying yes when you don't mean yes. Not saying yes when you shouldn't say yes. Not saying yes when it's not right to say yes, especially if it means taking a toll on you personally, emotionally, psychologically, financially, physically, spiritually. If it's becoming to take too much of a toll, something has to give. You have to be able to know what a boundary it is, to say no, and not give in, not feel bad, not feel that you've done wrong. But for a lot of people, it might be difficult to enforce. It might be uncomfortable to be strong. It might be uncomfortable to be assertive. You might not have done this before. Find and surround yourself with people who are assertive, who are confident, who do understand and can help be a sounding board to what is right and what is wrong, and to give you the validation and confirmation that you have made a good decision and you have not bowed over. You have not bent over backwards, forwards, sideways, and twisted yourself into a knot just to be a people pleaser. You only devalue yourself in that process. You only reinforce the negative I am. You only reinforce negative validation for yourself when you give in. So it's very difficult to see, feel, and understand that, especially if you're new to the game of healing. But when you get more advanced, you have to realize that it's a matter of the right thing and the new right thing for you. It might be new, it might not be familiar, but it might be the best thing for you to learn how to do and feel and execute and then process, is learning to enforce that. And that it's okay, and don't worry about it. Realize when the demands have taken you way off course. Realize when the things that they said were breaking you down, making you dysfunctional, so that you couldn't focus on something that was important. You couldn't attend something that was important. You couldn't become something that was important, or feel or think accordingly to what you needed, to help you to keep in alignment with your energy and your I am. in those moments when you had to fall over, you had to give in, you had to agree to the condescending terms. You had to agree to a criticism and a disempowerment. That was then, this is now. Today is a new day. You don't have to give in to unrealistic demands. You don't have to give in to dissociation. You don't have to give in to the fog. You don't have to give in to the unhappiness, and you don't have to give in to that sort of feeling down and apathetic. You can give into the joy. You can give into the I am. You can give into the boundary. You can give into the standard and say, you know what? This is what I'm doing. If you have a problem with it, that is your problem. This is your buddy. Peace and harmony with you here today. And I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace out and have a beautiful day.